More than half the parents on the sideline have never played competitive football at any level. Most watch with the feeling that they're missing something. In a way, that feeling is right, but it's not what they think they're missing. The parent with 15 years of playing experience watches a session through the lens of how they learn the game. Whether it gives them a clearer picture of what their child actually needs is another question entirely. This video is about that question. If you work through the GM audit, this is the observation lens for the practice design spoke, what you're actually looking for when you watch. There is a free tool at the end of this video that builds the kind of session I'm about to describe. The natural thing to watch from the sideline is outcomes. Did the pass connect? Did a shot go in? Did your child track back when possession changed? That's completely understandable. Outcomes are the most visible information available from 20, 30, 40 meters or yards away. But they can also be the most misleading signal for whether your child is actually developing, getting better. Outcomes at youth level are heavily shaped by two things: physical maturity and how much of the play the coach has pre-decided. A team where most decisions come from the sideline can win matches despite a lack of individual development. The fastest, biggest child wins a lot of individual duels regardless of technical skill. The result tells you a great deal about who's further along in puberty and how directive the coaching is. It could tell you very little about individual skill development. The more useful signal is this one. Is your child being asked to solve real problems? Are they facing real choices between options where their own choice has an actual consequence? Or are they executing a predetermined correct answer in a predictable sequence? That distinction is visible from the sideline, but you have to know you're looking for it rather than just looking at the score. There's one question you can ask about any portion of a training session. Does this look like football? Not whether it looks impressive, structured, or professional. Is there a real opponent whose position changes based on what your child does? Is there a real choice between two or more options? Is there a consequence that depends on that decision rather than just on how cleanly that skill or technique was executed? A line of players passing through a cone to the next player in the line doesn't look like football. There is no opponent. There is no decision. There is one correct answer and it's predetermined. The information your child is asked to read in that moment doesn't resemble what the match will ask for. A 2v2 with 2 goals, on the other hand, does look like football. There are opponents whose positions change. There's a real choice. Do I go left, right, play to my teammate? Space that opens and closes based on what everyone does. And that's what the match asks for. And that's the kind of practice environment that builds the player who shows up on the game on Saturday. For the non-playing parent specifically, this is worth knowing. Technical skills, first touch, passing, ball control, they're not built exclusively through repetitive drills. The research and a lot of years watching players develop consistently point in the same direction. Game-like environments produce much better long-term technical outcomes because the game creates the problem that makes the skill necessary. Your child's first touch improves a lot faster in a 2 versus 2 than in a passing line, because in a 2 versus 2 that touch means something. It might open a space or it might close it. And that's the instant feedback your child needs to improve. Here are the 4 things to watch for at your child's next training session. A cone doesn't move, doesn't read your child's body language. It doesn't press harder when they hesitate. An opponent does. Practicing around a static obstacle builds the ability to play around a static obstacle, which is not useful on Saturday when the obstacle has legs and reads the game. If the majority of the session involves cones as the primary challenge, the information your child is reading doesn't resemble what the match will present. Not just a predetermined sequence, a genuine option between 2 real possibilities with different consequences depending on what they pick. You don't need a precise count of this. Just watch for the pattern. Does it happen at all? Is your child regularly in situations where there is no real choice, just an execution? If so, the session structure is the limiting factor, not your child's ability. Consistent success at everything suggests that the challenge level is too low. Your child is just performing what they already do well. Consistent failure suggests it's too high and they're learning that effort leads to failure. Development sits in the gap between those 2 extremes, where the player is stretching but not overwhelmed. Watch for either end. Consistent dominance or consistent failure both tell you something about the environment, not about your child's ability. Either one, something needs adjusting. This last one isn't about the session itself, but it's about what surrounds it. Is your child coming into Thursday's training already tired from a Tuesday or Wednesday session? Is there a tournament this weekend after a full week of school and lots of training? You know this. The coach might not. And no one at the club has access to your child's full week. The most useful thing you can bring to a session is the knowledge of what's already in the bucket, so to speak, and the willingness to act on it, even when the schedule says otherwise. A depleted child needs rest, perhaps more than they need another session. And ultimately, that's a decision only you can make, because you're the one with a full picture. You can't and probably shouldn't change the club session. What you can change is what happens in the other 165 hours your child isn't at team practice that week. If what you're seeing shows low decision count, low opponent presence, mostly static challenges, the game-like information your child needs isn't coming from the club session. The 20 minutes in the backyard becomes more important, not less. You're not replacing the club program. You're providing the development environment the club structurally can't provide in a group of 17. If the load picture across the week looks full, your child is tired from school, a match Tuesday, training Thursday, tournament this weekend, the most useful decision you make this week, maybe the session you don't add. More volume into a depleted system doesn't produce development. It produces the niggle that shows up on Saturday, or the recurring soreness that brings you both to the physio 3 weeks later. Both of these are your decisions to make, and both of them require exactly the kind of information a parent who has never played the game is just as capable of having as anyone who has. You now have 4 things to watch. Go to the next session, use one of them. The free tool in the description generates the kind of session I described. Try it out this week. For the full picture, what the development gap looks like for your child and what the environment needs to change, apply below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.